The scream came sharp, tore through the house like a blade through cloth. Then came the crash, then the hiss. Boiling water soaked the floorboards. Steam rose like breath from something dying. The doll lay face down in it, half melted. One eye drooped. Plastic skin bubbled and blistered, peeling back to a smooth white underneath. Ivy stared down, her hands red and shaking. The kettle rolled on its side, her bare feet stuck to the wet floor. She didn't cry, just breathed hard through her nose, blinking fast. Skin peeled from her palm. Ray appeared like smoke from the next room, nightgown hanging off her shoulder, knife still in her hand. "Jesus," she said. Ivy didn't move. Ray grabbed her wrist, yanked her to the sink. "What the hell were you doing?" Ivy didn't answer. Water blasted over her skin. Cold. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood. Ray checked the burns, grunted low, reached into the drawer for salve. "I asked what the hell you were doing." "I didn't do it on purpose." "You poured a full kettle on yourself for fun." "It wasn't me. I was trying to move it. The doll was on the stove." Ray turned, slow. Her voice dropped. "What doll?" Ivy pointed without looking. "That one." Ray walked over, bent down, picked it up by one arm. The face was warped, one cheek blackened, lips melted into a crooked sneer. The hair had caught fire and burned halfway off. Ray stared at it. "You brought this here?" "No," Ivy said. "It was already on the shelf." Ray shook her head. "I don't keep dolls." It was just sitting there, like it had been there forever. Ray's eyes stayed on the face. Her thumb ran along the shoulder. Some of the melted plastic came off in her hand. "You sure?" "I didn't bring it," Ivy said. "Why would I bring that?" Ray didn't answer. She looked down at the doll again. Her face was flat, unreadable. Ivy leaned against the counter, hands still underwater. The skin had gone pale and bloated. She swallowed hard. "It looks like the one in my closet." Ray's eyes flicked to her. "The one Mom locked up." "That doll's not here," Ray said. "I know, I'm just saying. It looks like it." "No," Ray said. "It doesn't." "It does." "Ivy, I'm not lying. You didn't see the one in your closet long enough to remember." "I remember it." Ray dropped the doll on the counter. The sound it made was soft, like flesh. "I never kept dolls," she said. "And neither did your mother." Ash floated down from the stove, slow and gray. Some landed on the floor near Ivy's feet. The wood hissed under it. Ray walked back to the stove and shut the kettle lid. She didn't look at the girl. "I need to go." "Back to bed," she said. Ivy didn't move. "Can I sleep in your room?" "No. I don't want to stay alone." "You're not 6 anymore." "I don't care." "You'll be fine." Ray didn't say anything else. She stepped out of the kitchen and was gone. The doll lay where she left it. Its burned eye is still open. Ivy turned off the faucet. Her hands throbbed. She wrapped them in a dish towel and sat on the floor, back against the cabinets. The stove crackled. She looked at the doll again. Thought about the one her mom had locked away, high in the closet, in a box with a leather strap. She hadn't seen it since she was a kid, but she remembered its face, pale as bone, eyes like pins, lips too red. This one was almost the same, except burned, and plastic instead of porcelain. She didn't know why that mattered, but it did. The kitchen went quiet. The only sound was the drip of water from the stove. Ivy stood, picked up the doll again. Its back had melted in a swirl like someone tried to erase it. She turned it over. The dress had blackened and stiffened. The hair smelled like charred cloth. She looked around the kitchen. Every shelf, every corner. Nothing else was out of place. She turned it in her hands, then walked down the hallway. Ray's bedroom door was cracked. Ivy paused, listening. No sound. She pushed the door open. Ray was already asleep, mouth open, one hand hanging over the bed. Ivy stood there a second. "Ray," she whispered. "Nothing." "Ray." Ray grunted but didn't wake. Ivy shut the door. The hallway felt longer than usual. Lights off, only the faint red glow from the stove at the far end. Back in her room, she laid the doll on her bed. I looked at it, reached for the closet. I opened it. Inside, boxes, boots, sweaters. She pushed them aside. The porcelain box was still there. Same leather strap, same dust. Her hands shook. She reached for it, pulled it down, set it on the bed beside the other doll, undid the strap, lifted the lid. There it was, untouched, pale, eyes closed, dressed perfectly, but it looked exactly the same. Exactly. She stepped back. The burned one twitched, or maybe it didn't. She grabbed the box, put the porcelain doll back inside, slammed the lid, threw it into the closet, and shut the door hard, sat on the bed, hands still wrapped. The burned doll stared at her, one eye melted, one eye watching. She didn't sleep. The house stayed quiet, but Ivy didn't trust the quiet anymore. The burned doll sat where she left it, curled against the pillow like it had chosen that spot. She didn't look at it long. Her hands still ached under the bandages, though the sting had dulled into something heavier. She stood, crept barefoot through the hallway. The boards creaked, but she kept going. No lights, just the moon through the curtains, just the weight of something waiting. Ray's chair faced the fireplace, her braid slung over her shoulder, one boot still on. Ivy stood still in the doorway, waited for a breath, a twitch, something. But Ray was out cold, one hand on her lap, the other resting by a half-empty jar. Ivy stepped in slowly. Her heart pounded. She reached toward the keyring hooked on Ray's belt loop. Slide it free. Back in the hall, she turned toward the back room, the one Ray never let her near, the one with the padlock. The metal key slid in smoother than she thought it would. She hesitated before turning it, just long enough to feel the air shift. Then the click. The door creaked as it opened. Dark inside. She felt for the light chain pulled. A single bulb buzzed overhead. The room was colder than the hall. The walls are lined with shelves, boxes, jars of dried herbs, bundles of thread, old wedding dresses folded into plastic. In the far corner, the closet. Not a wardrobe, not a cabinet. A built-in closet with a tall wooden door. It had another small latch, but this one wasn't locked, just latched with a rusted hook. She opened it. The porcelain box sat exactly like she remembered it from childhood. Same cracked leather strap, same dull buckle. Ivy pulled it down, knelt on the wooden floor. She opened the strap, lifted the lid. The porcelain doll stared up at her, eyes closed, lips painted tight. Perfect, cold, untouched. She stared for a long time. Then she noticed the second doll, the burned one. It sat next to the porcelain like it had always belonged there, head tilted to the side, face warped from heat. Its dress was stiff, its hand melted halfway closed. Ivy jerked back. The lid slipped from her fingers and slammed shut. "No," she whispered. "You weren't here." She opened it again. Both dolls are still inside, sitting together like sisters. "You weren't here," she said louder. "I swear. You weren't here before." One of them blinked. Maybe, maybe not. She backed up, hit the shelf behind her. A jar fell, rolled across the floor. The bulb above her buzzed louder. Then a voice, soft, right by her ear. "You always forget me." She spun around. No one there, just jars. Dust. She looked down again. Both dolls are still there. Porcelain. Burned. Ivy's voice broke. "What is this?" Behind the dolls, taped to the inside of the box lid, was a photo. She reached out, hand shaking. It was old, faded. 3 children, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sitting on a porch. One girl, her mother, younger than Ivy had ever seen her, holding the porcelain doll like a baby. On the left, another girl, maybe Ray. And on the right, a boy. Small, thin, face partly turned, burned scars climbing up from his collar, his eyes squinted in the sun. He wasn't smiling. Ivy turned the photo over, blank. She looked at the boy again. "I've never seen him," she whispered. The burned doll sat too straight, too aware. She stepped away from the box, heart hammering. Footsteps creaked down the hallway. She froze. Ray's voice called, slurred. "Ivy?" Ivy scrambled, slammed the closet door, flicked off the light, closed the room door behind her just as Ray turned the corner. Ray squinted at her. "What are you doing?" "Couldn't sleep." "You go in there." "No." Ray frowned, looked past her at the closed door. "That room's off limits." "I know." "You take my keys?" "No." Ray stared a second longer. Her eyes didn't believe her. "I know what I heard," she said. Ivy's throat went dry. "You don't remember nothing," Ray added. "I remember enough." "You remember pieces. That's worse than nothing." Ray turned and walked off toward her room, dragging her boot behind her. The sound echoed like a chain. Ivy leaned against the wall. The key is still in her fist. She held it too tight, pressed into her palm like a brand. Back in her room, the burned doll was gone from the bed. She spun around, checked under the covers, the chair, the floor. Nothing. Her breath shook. She ran to the closet, flung it open. Still nothing. She sat down hard on the bed. Then she saw it. The photo. It lay on her nightstand, face up. The boy was staring at her. She picked it up, turned it over again, still blank. Her voice cracked. Why now? No answer. No whisper. Just silence. She turned the photo toward the moonlight. I looked at her mother's face again. So young. So still. She hadn't spoken about her childhood in years. Not since Dad left. Not since they moved the first time. Not since she locked that closet and said, "Don't ever touch that box." The boy in the photo. She tried to match him to someone in town. No one came to mind. Next morning, Ivy set the photo down in the kitchen next to Ray's mug. Ray didn't look up from her paper, just stirred her coffee. "Who's the boy?" Ivy asked. Ray kept stirring. "You know who he is." Ray finally glanced at the picture. Her eyes went flat. "Where'd you get that?" "It was with the dolls." Ray's jaw tightened. "You opened the closet." "You knew I would." "He's nobody." "He's got our face." "No." "He's blood." "No." Ivy tapped the picture. "Burned like that. And you're just gonna say no." Ray stood, poured out her coffee, didn't speak. "Was he yours?" Ivy asked. Ray didn't turn around. "You had a son." Ray whispered. "I had a scream. That's all." "What's his name?" Ray didn't answer. "Was it Jonah?" The mug shattered in Ray's hand. Ivy jumped back. "I saw it somewhere, a paper in your room. Jonah Reese." "Is that him?" Ray's voice was low. "You dig through every grave you find. You're gonna bury yourself. I just want the truth." "You want a reason to hate me," Ray snapped. "I don't hate you." "You will." They stared at each other. Ray's hand bled where the mug cut her. Ivy grabbed a towel, offered it. Ray didn't take it. Later that afternoon, Ivy sat outside on the porch, photo in her lap. The wind picked up. Dry leaves swirled across the dirt. She thought about going into town. Maybe Pastor Ellis knew something. Maybe someone at the library. Behind her, the screen door creaked. Ray stood there, smoke curling from the cigarette in her hand. She said nothing. Just watched the photo like it might speak on its own. Ivy asked again, "Was he your son?" Ray stared past her. "He wasn't mine long enough." "What happened?" Ray sat down. Her voice was thin. "He was quiet, sweet, smiled more than the rest of us, but he saw things, heard things that weren't there, started fires, said they whispered to him, said the doll told him to do it." "The porcelain one?" "Number the other one, the ugly one." "The burned one." Ray nodded. "Before it ever burned." "What did you do?" "We locked it up." "The doll?" "No." Ray said, "The boy." Ivy's throat closed. "You put him away." "We didn't know what else to do." "Where?" "Doesn't matter now." "It matters to me." Ray crushed the cigarette under her boot, looked up, eyes hard. "You go digging in that direction. You better not scream when you find him." She went inside. Ivy stared down at the photo again. The boy's eyes seemed darker now, watching, waiting. The next morning, the kitchen smelled like fire and fat. Ray stood over a steaming kettle, stirring a long wooden paddle through thick, pale lye soap. She didn't look up when Ivy came in. "You're up early," Ray said. Ivy kept her voice calm. "Who was he?" "Who?" "The boy." Ray stirred slower. "There wasn't a boy. He's in the photo." Ray scraped the paddle against the side. The bubbling popped louder. "I said there wasn't a boy." His face was burned. "Then burn the photo." Ivy stared at her. Ray didn't blink. "You want to dig up every piece of sorrow in this house? Go ahead. Just don't bring it back in here." "I'm not trying to start something." "Good. Then don't." "Was he my uncle?" Ray kept stirring. "Your mother had no brothers," she said. "Just me." "You're lying." "Then go ask someone else." Ivy walked out. Ray called after her. "If you go to that pond, don't come back wet." The sun wasn't high yet, but it was already hot. Ivy pedaled hard. Dust kicked up behind the bike tires. Stillwater Pond sat past the tree line behind the old feed mill. Folks didn't go near it much anymore. Some said the fish stopped biting. Some said they never swam right. Her mother used to bring her there when she was little, before everything started falling apart. They'd sit on the shore and skip rocks. Ivy always thought the water looked too still, like it was holding its breath. She dropped the bike in the grass. I walked the last stretch barefoot. The pond hadn't changed, wide and flat. Trees hunched around the edge. No birds, no frogs. Ivy crouched near the water, tossed in a pebble. It hit with a plunk, sending out a ripple. The ripples faded fast. The surface smoothed back over like nothing happened. She sat there for a while, watching. "Who are you?" she whispered. The breeze didn't move. The leaves didn't stir. She leaned closer. Something bubbled. Just one circle, then another, then a faint gurgle. She leaned back. The water stayed quiet. Then, sudden. A face. Half a face. Pale. Blistered. Eyes wide open. Burned raw. A flash. Gone. Ivy gasped, fell backward into the mud. Her elbow hit a rock. She scrambled up, heart in her throat, floating on the surface where the bubbles had been. Something small. $1. Ragged. One arm is missing. Scorched cloth clinging to its torso. It bobbed gently in place. Ivy took a step forward, stopped. The doll turned slightly in the water, its head tilted, like it was looking back. She ran, feet slapping through the weeds, slid once in the wet grass, caught herself, kept going, grabbed her bike with shaking hands and took off, not looking back. Tires spun fast over the dirt path. Branches hit her arms, scratched her legs. At the edge of town, she stopped to breathe. Her hands were still shaking. She looked behind her. Nothing, but the feeling hadn't left. Back at the house, Ray was hanging soap slabs on the line. Ivy walked up slowly, muddy from the knees down. Ray noticed. "I told you not to go near the water. You knew I'd go." Ray kept hanging. Ivy stepped closer. "There's something in there." "In where?" "The pond." Ray looked at her for the first time. "You saw him?" Ivy hesitated. "I saw something." "Then you better not say a word." "You told me there wasn't a boy." "There ain't." "He looked like the one in the photo." Ray's jaw clenched. "Then maybe the water lied to you." She said. "It didn't feel like a lie." "Feelings ain't facts." "He's trying to tell me something." Ray dropped the last soap slab on the rack. "He's not trying to do nothing. He's dead." "So, he was real." Ray turned. "Don't twist my words." "Was he real or not?" Ray stepped forward, voice low. "Let me say this once, that pond doesn't feed fish. It feeds stories. And stories ain't always yours to take." "Was he yours?" "Don't go asking things you ain't strong enough to carry." Ivy stared at her. Ray walked past, headed toward the shed. Ivy followed. "You keep warning me, but you won't answer. 'Cause you don't want to know the answer. You want to feel important." "I want the truth." Ray stopped at the door. "Then listen well, some things don't come out clean. Not with lie, not with fire, not even with death." She went inside and slammed the door. Ivy sat on the porch that night, wrapped in a blanket, arms crossed tight. The photo sat on the railing beside her. She stared at the boy's face. The burned scars looked sharper in the moonlight. She whispered, "You were there. I saw you." The wind picked up. The trees shifted, but nothing else answered. Inside, Ray moved around quietly. The house creaked. The floor popped under her boots. Ivy didn't sleep. In the morning, she checked the bathroom mirror, mud under her nails. She cleaned it out, tied her hair back. She opened the closet. Both dolls were still there, porcelain and burned. Neither moved. She looked down at her own reflection in the mirror. "Why'd they keep you locked up?" she asked under her breath. Then she said it louder. "Why'd they leave you in the water?" No reply, just her own voice bouncing back. Later that day, she biked to the old market, found Pastor Ellis stocking the porch freezer. "Morning, Ivy," he said. "Heard you've been staying with Ray." "She's still the same." "She always is." "You know a boy named Jonah?" Pastor Ellis's hands froze on the freezer lid. "Why are you asking?" "I found a photo. Ray won't talk." "I'm not your family." "No, but you baptized half this town." He looked at her. His eyes were tired. "Jonah Reese?" She nodded. He closed the freezer, wiped his hands. "There's stories," he said, "but I don't hold to stories." "I saw him." Pastor Ellis paused. "Where?" "In the pond." He swallowed. "Still water?" She nodded. He looked off down the road, eyes far. "I buried that boy's memory 20 years ago." "Why?" "Because folks don't know what to do with things that scare 'em." "Did he scare you?" "No," the pastor said. "What scared me was how quick everybody wanted him gone." "What did he do?" "It didn't matter. He wasn't right. That's all it took." "So he was Ray's son?" Pastor Ellis hesitated. She'd never say. But that boy loved her like a mother. "What happened to him?" "They said he wandered off, drowned. I never believed that. Why? Because I saw the bruises. Ivy's breath caught. Ellis looked at her, voice low. You keep looking. You won't find peace. Just ghosts. I'm not scared of ghosts. He touched her shoulder. You should be. Back at the house, Ivy walked straight to Ray's room. The door was open. Ray sat on the edge of her bed, holding a photo frame. Ivy stood in the doorway. Jonah was yours. Ray didn't look up. He called you Mama, Ivy said. Ray blinked slowly. Only when it was dark. They hurt him. They were afraid. Of what? He remembered too much. Ivy stepped into the room. Ray held out the frame. Same photo. Her mom, Ray, the boy. I was supposed to watch him, Ray said. That day. The one he went missing. You didn't. I was scared too. Ivy's throat tightened. So you locked him away. No, Ray whispered. They did. I just didn't stop. Ivy sat beside her. The silence stretched long. Ray finally said, You shouldn't have gone to that pond. I think he wanted me to. He wants revenge. I think he wants to be known. Ray looked at her. You think that's safer? Ivy didn't answer. They sat there, photos between them, ghosts thick in the room. Stillwater stayed quiet, but I remembered. And it was done. Being quiet. The old church sat crooked on its hill, leaning just enough to notice. The front doors creaked as Ivy pushed through. Her boots hit the wood with sharp steps. Dust swirled in shafts of light that cut down through the windows. The pews were empty. The altar sagged a little to the left. She passed the baptismal font, cracked at one edge, walked straight down the aisle like she had a right to be there. Pastor Ellis was in the back room, bent over a shelf of hymnals, muttering to himself about termites or weather or both. He didn't look up until she slammed the door open. Ivy, where is it? Where's what? She stepped closer. The truth. Ellis frowned. You can't just walk in here shouting. I'm not shouting. You are. I need to know about Jonah. His face went flat. There's no Jonah here. He's in the photo. That photo doesn't belong in this church. It belongs in your memory. You need to... Hush. Why? Because your family has suffered enough. Why did you scratch his name out? I didn't scratch anything. But you let it happen. Ellis turned away. You think screaming heals? No, Ivy said. But silence didn't help my mother either. He sighed, rubbed his temples. Ivy, this town holds its pain quiet. That's how it survives. Then maybe it doesn't deserve to. He didn't answer, just moved past her, walked down the narrow stairwell to the basement. She followed. The steps groaned. The air below smelled like mildew and rotted paper. A single bare bulb swung overhead. Shelves lined the walls full of water-warped Bibles, candle stubs, funeral fans from decades back. At the far end sat an old wooden cabinet with a padlock broken clean through. Ellis crouched, pulled out a thick, leather-bound book. Here, he dropped it on the table. What is it? Baptism register. Every name for the last 100 years. She opened it, flipped pages. Dust stuck to her fingers. He watched her without speaking. She stopped on a page marked with her own name. Ivy Reese, 3 weeks old. She touched it, then looked below. A second name, written in the same hand. Jonah Reese. The name was scratched out, but still readable. She looked up. He was baptized? Ellis nodded. Same week as me? Yes. So Ray, don't say it. She was his mother. I said don't. Why'd you erase him? I didn't. Then who? Ellis hesitated. The sheriff. Ivy's stomach dropped. Gatlin? Ellis nodded. Said it was necessary. Necessary for what? To keep the town quiet. Ivy slammed the book shut. He's not God. Ellis didn't flinch. Number, but he holds the land. That doesn't make him right. No, Ellis said softly. But it makes him afraid. Ivy paced the floor. The bulb above buzzed. You baptized Jonah. You made a promise. I did. And then you let them erase him. I was young, scared. You're still scared. He didn't deny it. She stopped in front of him. Where's the rest of his record? Gone. You expect me to believe that? You can believe what you want. She turned, looked at the cabinet. What's in there? Old church records, donations, births, marriages. Any deaths? Ellis didn't speak. Ivy yanked the door open. Inside were rows of folders, binders, torn envelopes. She grabbed a stack, flipped fast. Anything on Jonah? I told you. She didn't stop. Papers fell around her. Baptismal. Cards, birth certificates, funeral programs. Most were typed, a few handwritten. One was burned at the edges. She opened it. A drawing. Crude. Child's hand. A house. A doll. A figure standing near water. No name. Just a smudged date. She held it up. What's this? Ellis took it, stared long. Jonah drew that. You kept it. He nodded. Why? It was the only thing left. Ivy's voice was low. You owe him more. I know. She stared at him. Then speak his name. Ellis looked down. She stepped closer. Say it. Jonah Reese. It echoed in the basement. Ivy exhaled. Now, she said, tell me what happened. Ellis sat down slowly. There was an accident. Fire in the parsonage basement. He was 6. They said he lit it, playing with matches. You believe that? No. Why not? Because he was terrified of fire. Then who did it? Ellis shook his head. Don't know. But when the smoke cleared, he was gone. Gone. Disappeared. Nobody. None. Ivy crossed her arms. And that's where it ended. No. What else? Sheriff Gatlin called a meeting. Said it was best to say Jonah drowned, to keep it quiet. Why? Because Jonah wasn't normal. Ivy's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? He heard things. I saw things. Spoke in ways a boy shouldn't. Like what? Like he knew things he hadn't lived. That scared them. It scared everyone. But not you? I didn't understand him, but I loved him. She nodded. Why did you erase him? Ellis looked away. Ivy turned back to the cabinet, dug through more files. Is Ray in here? Yes. Her baptism? Yes. And her son's wasn't supposed to be? No. But she brought him anyway. Ellis nodded. Insisted he be named. Said if the church wouldn't take him, the land wouldn't either. She knew he'd die. She knew something. Ivy stared down at the page again. Her own name above his. Born into the same place. Baptized by the same man. Only she got to keep her name. Have you ever been to Stillwater? She asked. Ellis paused. Not in years. Why not? Too quiet. There's something there. I know. He wants to be remembered. Ellis stood. Then let's remember him. They walked back up the stairs. The church was still empty. The light is brighter now through the front windows. Ivy walked to the front, stood by the altar. Was he buried? No, Ellis said. No grave, no marker. Then he's still waiting. Yes, she looked around. Then this is where I'll start. Ellis stepped beside her. You gonna bring fire? I'm gonna bring his name. Ellis nodded. That might be louder. Outside, the bell tower creaked in the wind. Ivy walked to the rope, pulled once. The bell rang. Low, heavy, honest. Ellis stood behind her. No one's rung that in years. Now they'll ask why. He nodded. Let 'em ask. She rang it again. And again. The house was hotter than usual. Ivy stepped into the kitchen and felt the heat wrap around her like a blanket too tight. Steam billowed from the black kettle Ray had hung over the stove. The windows were fogged, the air heavy. Ivy wiped her arm across her forehead. Ray stood with her back turned, stirring slowly, shoulders stiff. You're making a new batch? Ivy asked. Ray didn't turn. It felt like the right time. The scent filled the room, thick and wrong. Not like the lye soap Ray usually made. This wasn't clean or sharp. This was sweet, cloying. Something behind the sugar, coppery and raw. Did you change the recipe? Ray kept stirring. Ivy, she said, quiet. You've been digging. I've been remembering. That doesn't mean it's yours to carry. I saw his name. I saw his face. That makes it mine. Ray's hand didn't stop moving. You don't know what it took to survive this place. I know what it cost. You don't. I know you had a son. Ray paused, just for a breath. Then the paddle moved again. I had a scream, she said, and then I had nothing. Ivy stepped closer. The heat from the pot made her eyes sting. You let them bury him, she said. I watched them do worse. Then why make soap for them? Ray finally turned. Her eyes were glassy. I didn't say it was for them. What's it for then? Ray handed her the paddle. Stir. Ivy took it, hesitated. You want answers, Ray said. Start with your hands. The mixture inside the kettle was thicker than usual. It clung to the wood like tar. Ivy stirred. Slow. Careful. Why's it smell like that? Because you're smelling the truth. That's supposed to be comforting? No. Ivy stirred another loop. Something floated to the top. A thin strand. She leaned closer. A hair. Dark. Long. Tangled. She froze. This is human. Ray didn't blink. Are you using your hair now? I use what I have. Where'd it come from? Same place the silence did. That ain't right. None of this is right. Ivy dropped the paddle back in. Ray caught it before it splashed. You asked what this batch is for, she said. Ivy nodded. Yeah. Ray stirred once, twice, then said quietly, for the ones who buried him. Ivy stepped back. You can't mean that. I mean exactly that. You gonna sell it? No. Then what? Deliver it. To who? You know who. Ivy's voice dropped. The sheriff. Him and the rest. They won't use it. They already do. Ivy stared at her. You've done this before. Ray looked down into the pot. Every bar they've ever touched had a piece of him in it. Ivy felt her stomach twist. That's sick. It's justice. No, it's revenge. Then let it be. That's not gonna bring him back. Nothing will. Ray walked to the sink, rinsed her hands. Her skin was red from the heat. She grabbed a cloth and dried off slowly. Do they know? Ivy asked. They don't ask. Have you ever told them? I tried once. And? They laughed. Ivy swallowed. You ever think maybe they'll laugh again? Not after this batch. The kettle hissed louder. That night, Ivy lay in bed, but sleep didn't come easy. The scent clung to her skin. She could still feel the heat from the kettle on her palms. She closed her eyes. I tried to think of something else, but the dreams came fast. Jonah stood in the center of a room with no windows. His skin peeled from his arms. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The doll in his hands melted as he held it. The eyes dripped down its cheeks. He looked at Ivy, and his jaw cracked open wider than it should have. She woke up gasping. The room was dark. The burned doll was back on her chair, sitting upright, head tilted. She threw the blanket off and stepped out. Her feet hit the cold floor. She walked to the kitchen. The kettle was still warm. A pan of cooling soap sat on the counter in thick squares. Ray had cut them already, even the edges. They were pale red like flesh. Ivy picked one up, held it to her nose. Still sweet. Still wrong. She turned it over. On the bottom was a mark. Not Ray's usual stamp. This one was scratched in by hand. A letter J. She set it down. The next morning, Ray loaded the truck. Wooden box in the back, bars stacked neat inside. You want to come? She asked. Ivy shook her head. Ray paused. Are you afraid? I'm tired. Ray got in without another word. Ivy watched her drive off down the dirt road, the truck disappearing into morning fog. She turned back to the house. I walked to the hallway. I opened the closet. The dolls sat where she left them. The porcelain one, clean, still. The burned one, watching. She reached in, picked up the photo. Jonah, her mother, Ray. She whispered, You still want to be remembered. The burned doll tilted slightly as if answering. Ivy didn't sleep the next night either. The house was too loud. The walls creaked like footsteps. The sink dripped in rhythm. She sat by the window watching for Ray's headlights, but they never came. At dawn, she found the burned doll on the porch. Its face was wet. She picked it up. The moisture wasn't dew. It was wax, melted, like tears. Ivy walked inside, sat the doll on the table. The scent of soap still hung in the air. But something else came with it now. Like blood, like fire, like grief that hadn't finished speaking yet. The feed store smelled like dust and diesel. Ivy stepped inside and didn't bother pretending it was casual. Her boots hit the floor hard. Heads turned, but no one spoke. The old men in the corner froze mid-domino. A woman near the grain sacks lowered her voice to a hush. Sheriff Gatlin stood near the back, talking to the clerk. One hand rested on the counter, the other on his belt. Ivy didn't wait. She walked straight up. You got a minute? Gatlin turned, took a second to recognize her. Heard you've been nosing around places you shouldn't. I'm not here for warnings. Then what are you here for? Jonah Reese. The name landed like a dropped match. Gatlin blinked. You don't say that name. I just did. You saying it again'll get you nothing but trouble. Did you know him? I know you ought to stay quiet. Funny thing, I tried that. Didn't work. He stepped closer. You think you're brave. I think I'm tired of being lied to. You think that photo you're showing folks means anything? It means you knew him. You don't know what it means. I know the fire wasn't an accident. His jaw clenched. Don't start down that road. Too late. He touched the edge of his badge, ran his thumb over it slowly. Ivy stared at it. She slapped his hand away. He froze. You were there, she said. Back up. I won't. You think you're some kind of truth teller? Number, just someone who's not scared of you. You should be. Why? You're gonna bury me too. The room went still. The domino men stood now. No one spoke. Gatlin didn't move. His jaw worked. Then he turned slightly, adjusted the cuff of his shirt. Ivy's eyes locked onto it. A faded scar peeked out just below his wrist. Shiny pink. Old. Like a burn. What happened to your arm? None of your business. Looks like fire. He didn't answer. You got that putting Jonah in the basement? He stepped forward fast, but stopped just short. You don't want to do this. I already did. He lowered his voice. You think Ray didn't know. Think she didn't help us keep that boy quiet. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to leave it alone. She's the only one who didn't. She's the only one who regretted it. Ivy's hands curled into fists. You lit the fire. I put it out. He screamed. Not loud enough. You left him. Number, he ran. She narrowed her eyes. Did you see him die? I saw what he became. That's supposed to scare me? It should. Ivy's voice dropped. You got rid of him because he knew what y'all did. Gatlin stepped back. His breathing was tight. His hand dropped from the badge. He looked around the room. Too many ears now. I got work, he muttered. You've got guilt. He walked out the front door. Didn't look back. Ivy stood still. The clerk behind the counter stared at her. The others in the store went back to pretending they weren't listening. She turned and walked out slowly. Outside, the heat hit her like a wall. The sheriff's truck was gone. She pulled out the photo from her pocket. Jonah, the boy in the background, holding the doll, same eyes. She turned it over, still blank. She whispered, He knows you're still breathing. Back at the house, Ray was chopping kindling in the yard. Her sleeves were rolled. Sweat darkened her collar. Ivy walked up fast. You didn't tell me Gatlin got burned. Ray didn't stop swinging. Didn't seem relevant. You were there. I never said I wasn't. You helped them. I froze. You lit the fire? No. But you watched. Ray stopped. Dropped the axe. I turned away. He screamed. I know. Ivy shook her head. I thought you were different. I buried him in soap. That doesn't count. Ray looked her in the eye. Then you bury him how you see fit. That night, Ivy sat on the porch steps with the photo on her lap. She traced the edge with her thumb. In the dark, the boy's face seemed clearer, not blurred anymore, not lost. The sheriff's voice echoed in her head. He ran. Ivy knew that was a lie. She stood. I walked to the kitchen. The pan of cooling soap sat on the counter, another batch. She lifted one bar, scratched the surface with her nail. The faint smell of copper still lingered. She thought of the badge, the scar, the lie. She pulled out a piece of butcher paper, wrapped the soap, wrote one word on the front in black ink. Payment. The next morning, Ray didn't ask where she was going. Ivy took the wrapped bar and walked into town. Gatlin's office sat between the bank and the diner. She stepped inside. The deputy looked up, startled. I'm here for him. He's not. Tell him I'm not leaving. The sheriff came out of the back, buttoning his shirt. You again. She dropped the package on his desk. He stared at it. What is this? Reckoning. I don't want it. You don't get to choose. He picked it up, turned it in his hands, sniffed it once. His eyes met hers. What did you put in here? Same thing you put in Jonah. He didn't speak. She turned and walked out. Behind her, he didn't call her name. That night, Ray lit the lantern on the porch. Ivy sat beside her. The house was quiet. He took it. Ray asked. Yeah. You think he'll use it? I hope so. They didn't speak again. The air smelled of smoke and rain. Somewhere far off, a dog barked once, then went quiet. The road to the old house was overgrown. Ivy parked just past the bend, walked the last stretch through weeds that clawed at her ankles. The house looked smaller now. Sagging porch, Windows blacked out with rot, paint peeled like dead skin, boards nailed across the front door, but she found the back window loose and climbed through. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and something older. She moved slowly, her boots soft on the warped floor. Every step echoed. The hallway still had her mother's old wallpaper, roses fading into brown stains. Ivy passed the kitchen, the parlor, the door with the bullet hole near the knob. She found the stairs and climbed, hand brushing the rail. At the top, the nursery door stood half open. She pushed it gently. The hinges groaned. The nursery was intact, like it had been waiting. Crib in the corner, sheets still pale blue, a dresser, a rocking chair, dust layered on every surface. Burn marks spread across the ceiling in long fingers. Ivy stared at them, patterns of flame frozen in time. She walked to the center of the room. The dollhouse sat on a low table, warped from heat, one side slumped in. Its roof was scorched, paint blistered. Ivy crouched and opened it. Inside were tiny wooden buildings, hand-painted, detailed. The feed store, the church, the sheriff's office, her own house tucked beside a crooked model of Stillwater Pond. Someone had carved the surface of the water with a sharp tool, lines like waves. A tiny black figure floated in it. She moved her hand to the sheriff's building. The miniature badge above the door was painted in gold. Inside, she saw a black shape. Vaguely human, no face, just a dark smear in the middle of the room. She reached in, pinched the figure. It crumbled in her fingers, fell to dust. She dropped it. I stood up. Her heart beat too loud. Her foot stepped forward, onto something hard. She looked down. A piece of charred wood shaped like a doll's head, hollowed. The walls creaked. She turned in a slow circle, scanning the nursery. The rocking chair shifted just once. She stepped back into the hallway. Her breath felt wrong in her chest, too thick. She moved fast down the stairs. The house groaned like it didn't want her to go. At the door, she pulled hard. It stuck, then gave. Outside, the air was cooler. She stepped onto the porch, stopped. A doll sat on the top step, burned. Not like the others. This one hadn't melted all the way. Its face was still there, barely, one eye blackened. The other, open wide, painted iris faded to pale gray. Wax dripped from the corners like tears. Ivy stared at it. It stared back. She crouched, touched the wax. Still warm. She whispered, "Who put you here?" The doll's mouth was twisted into something close to a grin. Ivy grabbed it by the neck, stood, and threw it hard into the yard. It landed face up. She turned and walked down the steps, fast. Didn't look back. But she could feel the porch still watching her. The attic was hotter than the rest of the house. The ceiling pressed down low, and the insulation smelled of dust and ash. Ivy climbed slowly, pulling herself up through the narrow hatch. She hadn't been up there in years. Maybe never. The light was dim, filtering through a vent in thin yellow strips. Cobwebs clung to the rafters like old breath. Boxes were stacked to one side, cloth bags, buckets, lye-stained boards, and a small chest, black, locked with a clasp but not padlocked. She opened it. Inside, a leather-bound ledger, worn down the middle, edges curled. She flipped it open. The first page was blank except for one name. Jonah Reese. Her breath caught. The handwriting was Ray's. She turned the page. More names. Dozens. All in the same neat hand. Some underlined, some circled, some crossed out so hard the paper tore. She recognized half of them. Sheriff Gatlin, Pastor Ellis, Deputy Munn, the mayor's wife, her high school principal. Her mother's name, too, circled once, then scratched lightly in pencil, half erased, like Ray had changed her mind. One stood out. Sheriff Gatlin circled red. Beside it, 3 words, written sharp and clean. Ode for silence. She flipped further. Each page had tally marks, soap batches, notes in the margin, ingredients, dates. One entry simply read, delivered, used, unaware. Another, still breathing. She closed the book. The house creaked below. She carried the ledger down, one hand tight around the spine. Ray was in the back room, folding cloth napkins like it mattered. The sun burned through the window, catching her in hard light. She didn't look up as Ivy walked in. "I found it." Ray didn't stop folding. "The book," Ivy said. "Ledger." Ray blinked slowly. "That wasn't for you. It's full of names. They used my hands. You wrote them down, so I won't forget. You kept count. I kept shame. Ivy opened the book, flipped to the first page. You put Jonah first. I had to. He was your son. He was in debt. Ivy stared. He was your blood. I know. She turned the page. You marked them all. They asked me to clean it up, make it go away. And you did. I boiled it, mix it, sold it back to them. Why? Because they made me bury it. What did they bury? Everything. Ray's hand stopped folding. Truth, blame, him. Ivy pointed to the red circle. Gatlin. Ray nodded. He paid the most. With money? With silence. And this soap, they bathe in it every day. Ivy sat down across from her, the ledger between them. You could have told me. You weren't ready. And now you are. Ivy flipped back to her mother's name. Why is this one half erased? I almost forgave her. Why didn't you? She closed the door. That's worse than setting the fire. You think she knew? She knew enough to run. Ivy shut the book. You think this ledger's justice? No. Then what is it? Remembrance. Ivy leaned forward. You want them to carry the weight? Ray looked at her, tired. I want them to feel the stain every time they think they're clean. Ivy held the book close. You think that's enough? Ray whispered. It's all I had. The fire started slowly, a quiet glow behind the curtains. Then smoke, thin and gray, curling through the cracks of Sheriff Gatlin's windows. It moved with the wind, soft at first. By the time the porch lit up, folks had already gathered on the hill. Nobody said a word. Nobody ran for water. Nobody moved toward the station or the hose. They just watched. The flames climbed the front wall, took the roof like it had been waiting for the match. The wood cracked open. Paint blistered and peeled. Heat poured out in waves. It lit the street orange. A dog barked once and went silent. Somewhere nearby, a truck engine turned over, then cut off again. Ivy stood across the road still, the soap ledger in her hands, wrapped tight in cloth, her boots stuck in the dry mud, warm from the fire's reach. No sirens, no sheriff, no deputy, just fire and ash and the town, quiet as a funeral. In the upstairs window, a shape appeared. $1, propped on the sill. Burned. Same half-melted face, one eye sagging low. It didn't fall. It stayed right there in the light, watching everything. The roof gave way. Sparks shot high into the sky. Someone whispered, "Ain't nobody callin' this in." Another voice replied, flat, "Ain't nobody got service tonight." Ivy turned and walked. The heat followed her a few steps, then faded. The smoke clung to her jacket, stuck in her hair. She didn't look back, didn't run, just walked down the center of the road like it belonged to her. Ray stood at the edge of the trees, her coat open, arms folded. "You lit it?" she asked. Ivy didn't answer. "You left that soap inside?" Still quiet. "You left the doll." Ivy nodded once. Ray stared at the sky, where the smoke rose in columns that looked like memory. "It's not justice," she said. Ivy looked her dead in the eye. "Then what is it?" Ray held her gaze. "Inheritance." They didn't speak again. Behind them, the house crackled down to its bones. The house smelled of rain and scorched air. Ivy stepped inside slowly, boots heavy with dried mud. The hallway looked the same. Thin carpet, photos on the wall, the quiet hum of something electric behind the walls. But the silence was different now. It wasn't peace. It was waiting. She dropped her bag by the door and walked to her room. Her hand paused at the knob. Then she turned it. The air inside was cold. The closet was closed. She stepped in. The sheets on the bed were still made. The chair still faced the window. The closet door sat quiet, latched just like she left it. She crossed the room, knelt down, undid the latch, and opened the door. The box was there, same as always. She pulled it out, opened the lid, empty. She blinked, reached in. Nothing. No dolls, no burned cloth, no wax. Just a photo. She picked it up. The edges were darker now, singed. Jonah's face was gone. Not blurred, burned out. The paper bubbled and cracked where he'd been. A smear of ash. The others were still there. Her mother. Ray. But Jonah's place had been erased. She turned the photo over, still blank. Behind her, the floor creaked. She stood fast, turned. Her mother sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap. Ivy froze. "How long have you been sitting there?" "Long enough." "Why didn't you say anything?" Didn't need to. Ivy looked back at the photo. He's gone. Her mother's voice was flat. He was never meant to stay. You knew. I did. You let them do it. I let them protect us. From what? Her mother stared at the floor. From what we made. Ivy's voice cracked. He was a child. He wasn't like us. He was family. He was a warning. Ivy stepped closer. A warning for what? Her mother looked up. What happens when you don't listen? To who? To the fire. Ivy shook her head. That doesn't mean anything. Her mother stood. I told you never to open that door. Ivy's voice went cold. You didn't lock it hard enough. The air shifted. The closet behind her creaked. She turned. The door was moving. On its own. It opened wider, inch by inch, until it gaped. Darkness inside. Nothing visible. Just space. Ivy stepped toward it. Her mother grabbed her arm. Don't. Why? You don't need to know what's left. I already do. She shook off her mother's grip and reached into the closet. Her fingers brushed something soft. She pulled. The burned doll slid out. Its face cracked. Eye missing. Dress half melted. But it was still here. Behind it, something else. The porcelain doll. Untouched. She held them both up. They came back. Her mother's hands shook. They never left. Ivy set them down on the floor. You let them lock him up. It was Ray. No, Ivy said. It was all of you. Her mother didn't deny it. Ivy turned back to the closet. Something's still in there. No. You feel it too. I won't go near it. Then I will. She reached in again. This time her hand found something cold. Metal, a key. Old, rusted, shaped like a tear. She pulled it out. Her mother backed up. Ivy, I think this opens something. Don't do this. Ivy turned the key in her hand. What did you bury? Her mother didn't speak. Tell me. You wouldn't understand. I'm not asking to understand. Silence. Ivy walked out of the room, down the hallway toward the basement door. The key slid into the old lock. It turned out to be easy. Her mother called after her. He's not gone. I know. She opened the door. Dark stairs led down. She stepped into them. The closet stayed open behind her, dolls watching, silence thick. And something followed. The ground behind Ray's house sloped gently, down past the smokehouse and the chicken run, where the grass stopped growing and the earth cracked in the heat. Ivy had never gone that far back before. The trees were thinner there. The silence is thicker. The air held something weightless and wrong. She stepped over a patch of dead roots. I saw it then. The well, tucked behind a leaning cedar, its stones dark with age. The wood frame sagged, the pulley rusted. A bucket sat. Beside it, dry and cracked, rope frayed and curled at the end like a severed limb. Ivy walked closer. I looked down. Water, far below, barely visible. No ripples, no breeze. Just still, black surface, like a blind eye staring back. She held the burned doll in her hand. Its melted face is stiff against her palm. Wax stains on the hem, one arm bent out of shape. She looked at it. You followed me this far. The doll said nothing, but the well waited. She lifted the doll higher, turned it over once, then dropped it. No splash, just a soft thud, like wet cloth hitting something that wasn't water. She leaned over, peered in. Jonah? The name didn't echo, only her breath did. Then, soft, from below, a whisper, close but impossible. You never asked why she kept me. Ivy's body locked. She didn't move. Who are you? No answer. The rope creaked slightly in the breeze, even though there was none. She stepped back, eyes on the edge. Then she grabbed the bucket, tied it tighter, tossed the rope down until it reached something solid. The end vanished into the dark. She wrapped her hands around it, lowered herself in. The rope groaned. Her feet scraped stone. She moved slowly. The light faded. Above her, the well's opening shrank to a circle the size of a fist. Below her, the damp closed in. 10 feet. 15. Her boot hit a ledge, then another. She braced, slid, caught herself, kept going. The rope fibers bit into her palms. The smell of wet dirt filled her nose. The air thickened. She stopped, hung in place. Below, the dark stirred. She heard it again. That voice. You always looked away. Who are you? She called. You left me burning. I didn't. You buried me in soap. She twisted the rope, tried to see. Jonah, I was made to carry the heat. I want to know the truth. I already told you. She felt something brush her ankle. Cold, thin. She looked down. Nothing there. Only the surface. No splash. Just black. I'm not afraid, she said. You should be. Why'd she keep the doll? Because it was remembered. Remember what? What she wouldn't. A scraping sound echoed from below. Metal on stone. Then closer, wood creaking. She looked up. The rope twitched in her hands. Tighter now, like something held the other end. Then it began to lower her. Slow, without her doing it. No, she said, but the rope kept moving. A few inches, then more. She held tighter. The stone walls passed her face. Her boot slipped. Then she dropped. Fast. Hit bottom. Hard. Water soaked her knees. She gasped. Reached for the rope. Gone. She was in. No light. Only her breath. Only the soft lapping of water. She reached into the dark. Her hand found something smooth. Porcelain. Another doll. She dropped it. Backed up. Then a glow. A pale shape at the far edge of the well. Sitting. Watching. Jonah, small, silent, face half burned, holding the same doll. His eyes were open. He didn't blink. You came back, he said. I needed to. You always need to after it's too late. I didn't know. You knew enough. She stepped closer. You want me to bring it back up? No. Then what? Stay. I can't. You never could. He stood. The doll dropped from his hand. She reached for him. But he stepped back. Why me? She asked. Because you heard it, and don't pretend you didn't. I want to remember. You already do. Why the dolls? They're the pieces. You left me pieces. I'm sorry. I'm not. He turned, melted into the stone. Gone. Only the water moved now. She looked up. The rope hung again, waiting. She grabbed it. Pulled. It was held. She climbed. Her fingers bled on the stone. When she reached the top, the air cut sharp into her lungs. She lay on the grass, stared at the sky. The well stayed open behind her, and whispered, quiet, but not gone. Ivy's boots scraped the stone as she lowered herself deeper. The rope groaned in her hands. Her skin was damp from the climb, her breath short. The walls of the well narrowed around her. Cold air rose from below. Not fresh, but stale, like it hadn't moved in years. Her feet slipped once. She caught herself. Keep going. She couldn't see the bottom yet. The rope jerked once in her grip, then steadied. She kept climbing. The water was near. She could smell it now. But it wasn't just water. It was old fabric, scorched hair, lye. The rope swayed slightly. Her boot hit something solid. A ledge. Then more rope. She dropped it. Her feet landed in shallow water. Cold soaked through her socks. The bottom felt soft, like wet cloth. She looked around. Shapes surrounded her. She stepped forward, reached out. A dollar, half-formed. The porcelain face melted. One eye is missing. The mouth opened, painted teeth smeared red. She turned it over. Another, and another. Dozens. Stacked. Floating. Piled at the edges. Some were child-sized, some too small to hold. All of them are wrong. She picked one up. It had her face, paler, still, lips tight, hair the same. She dropped it. Another doll shifted near her boot. Its eyes opened. She stepped back fast. The pile rustled. Then one stood, not on legs, but as if raised from beneath. It looked clean, unburned. Porcelain skin is perfect. Hair combed back smooth. Same clothes Ivy wore. Same boots. Same scar on her hand. Its mouth moved. You belong here. Ivy stumbled back. The doll stepped closer. You forgot. No. You looked away. I didn't know. You did. It tilted its head. We've all been waiting. Behind it, the pile shifted. More dolls, more faces. Some hers, some Jonah's, some unfamiliar, but familiar enough. She screamed. The sound hit the walls, bounced back too fast, too loud. She turned, grabbed the rope, pulled hard. Nothing moved. She looked up. Light above, small, still. Then it shifted. A figure leaned over the edge. Ray. Ray, Ivy shouted. Pull me up. Ray didn't move. Please. The rope twitched. Then it dropped, fast. It fell into the water beside her. Loose. Gone. Ray! Above, the light shrank. Then it disappeared. She was alone. The doll stepped closer. You thought you'd find him. I came to listen. You came to hide. I'm not hiding. Then why are you shaking? The dolls around her started whispering. She turned in a circle, couldn't breathe. One of them reached out, brushed her leg. I'm not one of you, she said. Yes, the voice said. You are. She fell to her knees, hands in the water. More dolls below the surface, more faces. One floated up, Jonah's, small, still. Wax melted across his cheek. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. He just stared. The doll with her face crouched in front of her. You buried us. I didn't. You boiled us. I tried to save you. You watched. I was a child. You still are. Ivy's voice broke. I wanted to know. The doll smiled. You do now. The whispering stopped. Silence filled the well.
Ivy sat in it, still, shaking, breathing. Then she stood, wiped her hands. I looked around. The dolls didn't move. She picked up the perfect one, herself, lifted it close. You don't get to speak for me, she whispered. She threw it against the wall. Porcelain cracked. The face split. Water rippled. She turned to Jonah's face in the water. I remember now, she said. I won't forget again. He didn't reply, but the water calmed. Above, the light returned. The rope swung back down. Slow. Waiting. Ivy crawled from the mouth of
the well like something half-born. Her hands scraped rock. Her knees buckled under her. Her breath short and wet in the grass. Mud covered her arms. Blood streaked one side of her face. Her shirt clung to her chest, soaked through. The rope lay behind her, limp, slack again, like it never meant to save her. She stood slow, shaking. The sky was pale. Morning, maybe. Maybe something else. She turned toward the house. The ground felt soft beneath her boots, but she moved fast, past the shed, the drying lines, the old axe. She climbed the porch steps and kicked the door open. Ray sat at the table, didn't flinch, didn't speak. Ivy's boots dripped a trail behind her as she crossed the room. She didn't stop to breathe. She kicked over the nearest bucket. Soap water spilled across the floor. She grabbed another, threw it at the wall. The metal clanged. Ray still didn't move. Ivy's voice broke first. What did you do to me? Ray stared at her. I asked you a question. You went into the well. You dropped the rope. I thought you wanted to stay. You let it pull me under. You weren't ready to come out. Ivy shoved the table. The wood slid across the floor, scraping loud. A bar of soap rolled off the edge, hit the tile, cracked in half. You made me like them, Ivy said. Like the rest of them. No, Ray said. I made you remember. By boiling my face into a bar, I tried to burn it out of you. What? Ray stood. The curse. Ivy froze. You said there wasn't one. There isn't, Ray said. Not like folks say. Then what is it? Ray walked past her, picked up the split bar, turned it in her hand. The memory. Ivy laughed once, sharp. You called that soap, Justice. It was a map. To what? To what they tried to erase. You could have told me. You don't tell a girl what's already inside her. You wait for her to feel it. I felt it. I know. Ivy walked to the stove, opened the drawer, took out a pack of matches. Ray didn't stop her. I didn't ask for this, Ivy said. No one does. Ivy lit one. It flared. She held it in front of her, just long enough to smell the sulfur, then dropped it on the pile of spilled soap. The flame jumped fast, bright orange. It crawled across the floor, caught the edge of a cloth rag, then a bucket. The oil in the soap lit like dry wood. Fire curled up the cabinets. Ray watched it spread. You gonna stop me? Ivy asked. No. You gonna run? No. Why? Ray stepped back once, slow. I don't have to. The heat pressed against Ivy's cheeks. Smoke rose. Something in the back room cracked. I'm not like you, Ivy said. No, Ray said. You're worse. I'll carry it differently. You'll carry it alone. The curtains caught next. The windows lit orange. Ivy stepped to the doorway, paused. You boiled them all. I cleaned what I could. Have you ever felt sorry? Ray met her eyes. Every morning. Ivy nodded once. She walked out. Behind her, the house burned clean. The smoke was still rising by morning. Black streaks curled into the gray sky, hanging over the field where Ray's house used to be. Ash blew across the ground in soft spirals. The wind didn't carry it far. Folks gathered at the edge of the gravel road, boots pressed into dirt, eyes squinting through the haze. Nobody spoke. Then Ivy walked out of the trees. Her shirt was torn, hands bandaged in gauze-stained pink and brown. Soap streaked her arms, flaked across her sleeves. She didn't limp, didn't pause. She moved like something that already knew what it had to say. The crowd stepped back. Pastor Ellis stood nearest the ditch, Bible in one hand, hat in the other. "Ivy," he said. She didn't look at him. "You walk with fire on your breath, child." She stopped in front of him. "Then start listening." She pulled the ledger from under her coat. The cover cracked when she opened it. The first name she read made a woman gasp. The second name made the mayor's son take a step back. The third was the feed store owner. He didn't deny it. Each name came sharp, measured, clean. Every bar they ever bought, every bath they ever took, every silence they were paid for. Ivy's voice didn't shake. Ellis cleared his throat. "You mean to shame us?" She looked up. "No," she said. "I mean to make you remember." A man at the back whispered, "Ray did this." "No," Ivy said, "you did." "We didn't light the fire." "You didn't stop it either. You can't just accuse people." "I'm not accusing," she said. "I'm repeating." The ledger hung open. "Jonah Reese," she said. The name landed heavy. Someone muttered, "Old story." "No," she said. "Buried story." She held up the ledger. "This is what he left behind." Ellis shook his head. "This town's held on through worse." "And forgot all of it." He stepped forward. "What do you want, Ivy?" She looked at him. "To be heard." Ellis nodded once. Then I stepped back. The others waited. She closed the ledger, set it on the ground. "I ain't your ghost," she said. "I'm your niece." Nobody moved. Then someone clapped once, hesitant. It stopped quickly. But it was enough. Ivy turned, left them standing in the ash. The new house sat on flat land, far from the well, far from the church, far from where the fire had taken root. It was small, quiet. 2 rooms, 1 window that faced the east. Ivy unpacked slowly, 1 box at a time. She didn't hang any pictures, didn't fill the drawers. The place didn't ask much of her. The final box sat by the wall. Unmarked, she carried it into the bedroom. She opened the lid. Inside, wrapped in old cloth, was the last doll. She unwrapped it. It had no face, no painted lips, no glass eyes, no stitched eyebrows, just smooth porcelain, pale and round, a blank. She held it in her hands for a long time, then stood. I walked to the small wooden shelf above her bed. She cleared a spot, set the doll down in the center. She didn't name it. She didn't dress well. She just stared. "This one's for me," she said, soft. She stepped back, crossed the room. I opened the closet. Nothing inside but a coat, a pair of boots, and an empty box. She stared at the empty shelf for a beat, then closed the door. No latch, no lock, just shut. She turned off the light, sat on the bed, listened. No whispers, no screams, just stillness, the kind she hadn't known in years.